Alright guys, welcome back. So we're getting the car ready for undercoating and pour 15. So now that the floor pans are finally welded in, we got to get these floor pans finished so that we can actually start driving this thing around. So as you can see, the inside of the car, the floor pans are all seam sealed and welded in they're ready to go. On the underside, after we wire wheel and prep the bottom of the car for undercoating, we'll have to seam seal the bottom of the floor pans, and we also have to seal in the floor pan drain plugs. So we're gonna start working on that. We're probably gonna put a little bit of time into it every night after work during the week here, and hopefully actually be ready to spray by the weekend. Alright guys, day 2 of getting this thing ready for undercoating and painting the inside of the car. So as you can see, it's just total disarray in here. It's tight working in here. The space keeps closing in on us. As you can see, there's boxes of parts and pieces of the car all over the place. We got more stuff that showed up today. Undercoating, all the stuff to prep the floors before we paint just showed up today. So as you can see, it just keeps closing in on us. The space is getting smaller and smaller, so we're gonna keep pushing on. Hopefully get the floors finished today so that on Thursday, Friday this week, depending on what the weather's doing, we can finish getting the hopefully finished sanded and wire wheeled floors prepped for paint and undercoat. So let's get to it. Alright, as you guys can see, it's raining today. The plan was to push the car right out here in the driveway and start getting the underside of the floors and the inside of the car prepped for paint and undercoating. But obviously with the rain, that's going to make it kind of difficult to do it right here in the driveway. So the backup plan is we're going to actually use our paint booth, which is this carport that's in the driveway, to perform these treatments this afternoon / tonight. And I'm not sure if we're going to leave the car in here overnight to dry, or if we're going to put it back down on the ground and push it back into the garage to dry overnight. If we do wind up leaving it out there or in the garage, we're probably going to put a bunch of fans on it just to make sure that everything that's gotten wet is dry and ready for paint tomorrow. So real quick, I just wanted to show you guys what the actual plan is for undercoating and prepping these surfaces. So this is a quick deal of what we got. So for the undercoating on the underneath of the car, I went with a SEM Rock-it XC Bedliner. And for the inside of the car, we're going to be going with a POR 15 rust preventative coating. So for both of the applications, I plan to perform the POR 15 surface prep instructions. So we're going to use the cleaner degreaser on both the inside and underneath the car, and we're also going to use the metal prep before both applying the Bedliner and the rust preventative coating. So the cleaner degreaser is a 4 parts hot water and 1 part cleaner degreaser. I'm going to be applying it using this garden sprayer that we got from Harbor Freight, and then after this will be applied and is supposed to dry and then be rinsed off with water, whereas this is supposed to be applied and made sure that it's kept wet and then also rinsed off with water before the application of the coating and the Bedliner. So the POR 15 is just going to go on with brushes. Now, the POR 15 is UV sensitive, so if you're going to be applying it in an area where it's going to receive a lot of exposure to sunlight, you're supposed to use the top coat. Now, we're using it on the inside of the car, so it's not going to have that exposure to sunlight, but I was kind of curious to see how this stuff actually went on, to see how I liked it for possibly other applications. So I'm not sure if we're going to use the top coat or not yet, but I got the top coat just in case we decide to. I also bought a respirator and a face shield because this stuff and the POR 15, you really don't want to breathe that stuff in. Also tomorrow I'm going to be wearing probably something that's that I can throw out after we get done spraying this stuff, because any of the stuff that gets on clothes or shoes or on your skin is extremely difficult, if not impossible, to get off. So to protect the car, we're going to actually cover the car with a car cover, and then everything on the lower, the lower half of the car that would be hard to get protected with a car cover, we're going to use contractor paper and masking tape. So let's get this thing pushed out and into the carport, and let's get started. Alright, well, after that ordeal, I can promise you that the car is definitely staying out there. It's not leaving that carport until the floors are finished and everything's painted and we can drive it out. Because I don't know if you guys can tell from this angle, but my driveway actually slopes down this way, so the car is on a pretty gnarly angle downhill. So the whole jacking up process in here was not the greatest, and I can promise you that unless we were to hook this thing up and pull it out of here, it's not there's no way that I'm pushing it out of here, not by myself. And obviously for the floor pans, the drive shaft's out. The only thing that's still in here is the exhaust, so we're definitely not getting it out of here until it's ready to drive out. So let's start applying the cleaner degreaser. Alright guys, now according to what it says just to kind of let this stuff sit on there for a little bit and then hose it off later. So we're going to let this sit. I don't know, I'll probably come back out and check on it in like 20 minutes and see what it's doing. And if it looks like it's kind of starting to dry on itself, then I'm going to start to hit it with the hose and rinse all that off. But I can tell you that just after the first application of this stuff, you can see all this. I mean, I've been sanding and wire wheeling underneath this thing for days now this week, and you can see that there's tons of stuff already dripping off of the car, even on the inside. What I had thought was clean and you know, semi degreased was nowhere near clean and degreased. So we're gonna let this sit on here for a while, and then we'll come out and we'll rinse it off with the hose and see what the instructions say for the metal prep. Alright, so now that we've applied 2 coats of the cleaner degreaser and rinsed it off, we're going to apply the metal prep. Now it says if you're applying this to a bare metal finish, that you only need to keep it wet for about 10 minutes. But in our case, what we've done is a wire wheel, so there's still some paint. It's just scuffed up basically. So for that style of application, it actually says on the directions to keep it wet for 30 minutes. So what I'm going to do is actually set a phone on my timer for 30 minutes, and we're going to start applying it using a garden sprayer. Alright guys, so next day here, we're actually getting ready to, starting the drizzle, but we're actually getting ready to spray the undercoating. So we spent all morning taping off and masking all the areas that we don't want to get undercoating on. I used some of these clear plastic bags to kind of wrap around the rear differential and some of it around the exhaust and transmission type areas. The contractor paper we used to tape off some of these areas like the lower quarters. So we're getting ready to spray this thing now. We just got to mix up some of the paint and catalyst. Alright guys, so the undercoat underneath is applied. It's definitely still tacky. You can see the finish that we got here. Grab the light. we'll give this a few hours out here to kind of cure, and we'll check back in. Alright guys, it's been a few days since we applied the undercoating on the car, and I just wanted to give you an update on how it turned out. So here's what it looks like. This is a few days after it's had time to dry. So this actually stays kind of tacky until it actually hardens, but once it's hardened, it gets this like you know, plastic truck bedliner kind of feel. It's tough. I mean, you can feel that this is definitely going to take any of the abuse that we throw at it, and is going to work great. We also, since the shocks were off it, the old shocks were totally shot, we threw on the new QA shocks in the back, the double adjustable rear shocks with compression and rebound settings that you can adjust. So for right now with the 6-cylinder in it, we set it for like the middle of the road settings, not like hardcore drag racing settings, and not super firm handling settings. I just kind of have it set for the middle of the road. But the undercoating is all done, everything's dry, and we can start putting this thing back together. On the inside, my wife and I applied and put in all the Dynamat. So this was actually the Dynamat kit, the Dynamat Xtreme kit that they make for the Nova. So these panels are already cut. You don't have to cut or try and fit anything in here. It's already cut to cover the kick or toe boards, the driver's side floor pan, under the driver's seat, and the rear floor pans. It doesn't come with anything for the rear seat. And I'm not super concerned about everything in here being Dynamated. I just wanted to, so the Dynamat's supposed to be like the most hardcore sound deadener that you can get. So I just wanted to get a good portion of this floor Dynamated. This will be good enough for what this car is gonna see. And we'll, you know, we did a little bit of driving with it without the Dynamat and with a big hole in the floor. So this is gonna be a giant improvement from what this car had. So we got to get carpet in here, and then we can start putting the door panels and everything else back in here. At some point we'll probably put a headliner back in it, but yeah, that's pretty much it. So super happy with the way that the undercoating came out. I'd really recommend it if you're gonna you know, go with an undercoating instead of a paint for your car. But super happy with the way that this came out, and that's pretty much going to cover it for this video, guys. So stay tuned, and we'll see you next time. Truck is pretty cool like that. I think this is my favorite car. I want you to build it and get it. I want you to win that race.
Yeah.